everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Vince!
Vince, before we get into today's topic, we're going to talk a little bit about the multi-topic extravaganza round 2.
Yeah, multi-topic, as in more than one, which is what we usually do.
So the multi-topic extravaganza, if you don't know about it, is something we did a few months ago, which is kind of a Q&A. So what we do, and the reason we don't just call it a Q&A, is because...
Multi-topic extravaganza sounds cooler.
Well, there's that. but also because what we do with this is we take topics that people have suggested to us that we don't think that we can do a whole video on. Sometimes people will ask us something that we just don't have that much to say on.
There's a lot of people that'll say, hey, can you guys talk about this? And then a few months down the line, since we don't feel like we can get 10 minutes, I have to go, why haven't you talked about this yet?
Yeah, exactly. And we don't want people
You've
to think
broken my little fan heart.
We've forgotten about them because we do log all the questions. Every now and again we'll miss one, but we try really hard not to. We log everything in a document, and then when we get down the road and we go, hey, we got way too many of these and we can't do them all, then we do the multi-topic extravaganza. However, the reason we're telling you about it now is because if there's anything that you'd like to add to it, any little questions that you don't think we can do a whole video on, feel free, or even regular questions, because of course we're always taking those too. Feel free to put those in the comments, and we'll add that to the multi-topic extravaganza. Try really hard to get to it. There are a few questions that we had planned for the last one that we didn't get to. That we'll do first unless they were time sensitive. So anyway, that's what we're gonna do. So next week we'll begin that, and so put your questions in the box if there's anything that you haven't asked that you'd like to ask, and that's what we're gonna do.
Those burning questions deep down in your soul that are not the one we're going to talk about right now.
Vince, today's question comes from the Crimson Pool, and the Crimson Pool asks if we think that characters like Spawn will ever get out of the 90s. This is basically what he asks. He says, do characters like Spawn, are they going to be stuck in their era, or he asks, will they ever make it to the 21st century? And I kind of take that to mean, are they long-lasting characters, or are they going to kind of fade away? So we're going to put 10 minutes on the clock, and we're going to talk about that. Here we go.
I think it's kind of difficult to really pinpoint it, but I think Spawn will last. I think he'll be around years to come. Reason being is that every so often there's a character that has a lot of nostalgia attached to him. So Superman is still around, and then characters get created in the '70s, and they're still. I mean, like it's like Spawn has not gone away. People still know who he is. And he's been around for a while now. I mean, it's not like he's lost popularity, but he's not completely absent. So if the general public had never heard of Spawn, like we're walking into a generation where people were like, oh, Spawn? Ah, yeah, I remember that guy from back in the '90s. Like the people who remember him really remember him. But I suppose what we really need is something that's maybe not an update, but maybe something that is tonally updated. We'll call that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because some of these characters feel like they were there to exist in a particular period of time. I would make the case that some of those characters are still being published exactly the way they were. I think Luke Cage is a good example of that.
Well, I don't know. Luke Cage...
Or did he maybe change something,
too? I think Luke Cage changed extremely.
Okay,
because when he first came out, he was
not a character I know a lot about.
But when he first came out, he was Power Man. He was wearing a yellow blouse and this silver tiara. It was really strange. And I mean, he's been a hero for hire for a long time, but he suddenly became extremely urban around about the '90s. So Luke Cage, I think he's a good example of a character that sort of metamorphoses and then lives on. So I think people will still be around, especially if they're part of a continuity, and that might be where Spawn gets kind of shot in the foot.
Spawn, just visually, is a character that I think may be long lasting. Although I do think that his look is kind of born out of that kind of dark, like 90s goth period a little bit. I don't know if I'm right about that, but I mean, there's something.
I agree with that.
He came around, and I mean, I hesitate to say that because Todd McFarlane always says that that's a costume that he came up with way before that. But I think maybe that has to do with part of why it was popular right then. Because I mean, Metallica was big, Nirvana was big.
Some things are created before its time, and are released or get popular when they're supposed to, or when they would be likely to get popular.
in the early '90s, chains and skulls were big. Can we at least agree on that? And I don't think they are as much now. Like I don't think that's necessarily a sign of really edgy at this point. I don't know, but I just.
No, I noticed in a lot of '90s comics they're adding like spikes and bandanas to things
everything.
to make them cooler.
Right.
Like that's annoying. Let's get rid of the spikes and just go back to what it was. But
Spawn's always had that, and plus he being an agent of hell and all that, or at least originally that's what he was supposed to be. I mean that's what the Spawn is. It makes sense that he would have skulls and chains and spikes and things, and so maybe that will endure.
It's those things, man. That just makes it more creepy. Skulls and chains. And
what's interesting about comic books is that we often see resurgences of things even when they fall off, right? Where they'll come back later. You also get these characters when they're done by independent companies that will last forever, no matter how many people seem to be reading them. Usagi Yojimbo is still being published. It's still the same writer, I think, and it's I want to say maybe not.
Well, I don't know if it's the same writer, but. Definitely, the creator's still working on it.
Yeah, and it still comes out every month, still with the same numbering system, and that's not a character that is super popular, but he's still around.
Yeah, I mean, characters, they hang around. They really do. I mean, and there's resurgences of things like, for example, the character Patsy Walker or Patty Walker or whatever her name is was a romantic. Comics character from back in the day that Marvel was publishing.
Okay, yeah.
And they took her and gave her superpowers, and now she's Hellcat. And,
really?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Awesome.
So Hellcat, not necessarily the most popular character, but not necessarily...
Clearly.
not present. I mean, people tend to hang around in comics.
It's an interesting industry, and I think part of it is because it's in print. We don't have to get an actor to play the part. It doesn't cost any more to draw a character that you want to draw one character over another character.
Yeah, you print 4 books, 3 of them sell, 4th doesn't. You stop printing it. I mean,
and then 10 years down the line, somebody might go, "Hey, I'd like to use that character in another book, or I'd like to give them their own miniseries again." And you think, well, how expensive is it really to make a miniseries? And a lot of times it happens. Yeah,
I think 10, 20 years you might see a resurgence of Spawn set in the 90s. Because, I mean, look at the Ghostbusters. It's set in the early 90s because
I figured you might bring up Ghostbusters, but the thing about Ghostbusters is that it was a very 80s thing.
Yeah.
And Spawn as an idea is not like intrinsically 90s. You know what I mean? Like I still say the look kind of is, and some of the things that they were doing in that book early on were. But here's the difference between something like, well, okay, there's a clear difference between Ghostbusters and Spawn, but here's the difference in tone between Ghostbusters and Spawn. Okay, or not tone, but like period stuff. I don't know what I'm talking about. Ghostbusters is about these 4 guys. Spawn right now, we already have a new one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't been Al Simmons for two years now, and it's selling better. You see what I'm saying? So the thing about it is, it seems that with that character, for some people it's Al Simmons, for some people it's Spawn. You know what I mean? It's the symbiote, the costume, the mythos of the universe, where we can have.
Not unlike Venom now.
Yeah, exactly. Where we can have multiple ones, and it's interesting because he's kind of similar to Venom in that way. But anyway, the reason I mention that is because I think that Spawn can go in real time in a way Ghostbusters can't. I mean, like Spawn, and you don't read Spawn, so you wouldn't know this, but it is currently actually set in 2012. You see what I'm saying? I mean, or kind of, sort of, because the book's actually been kind of taking its time lately. But all I'm saying is, it isn't like the world stays stuck in a place and then things change around it, like in, say, Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Where it is kind of 2012 in Spider-Man, but then he remembers things that happened in the 60s, like they happened last month. You know, so. It's not like that with Spawn. The only weird exception to that are certain characters that don't seem to have aged very much, like Sam and Twitch, who you kind of wonder how they have stayed the same age they've been when you've seen when you see kids in that universe grow up. You know, so that's a little bit confusing. But anyway, I'm just saying that I think that Spawn can exist outside of Al Simmons, where the Ghostbusters is a little harder.
I think for a lot of characters, it's kind of like how do they how do they grow, and not necessarily age-wise, but how do you take this character and make him meet the present time period? So
make it relevant to today.
Yeah, when I look at Spawn, I look at a character who's, when you're looking at 90s, you're looking at a group of people that pride themselves in being kind of ironic. And I say that a little annoyingly, meh. But Spawn is okay. I mean, I'm not saying that its use of irony is bad, because I think it's interesting to bring this this hell topic, this theme of darkness closer to you. Like in the 90s, you are more ready to look at something as intruding upon your world and be approving of it and finding it interesting. So you're sitting in suburbia, and suddenly you're faced with these topics of cruelty that the regular man is capable of committing upon another man. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes? Cool. But we're moving into a time period today...
Do I have anything to add? No.
But we're moving into a time period today where, after the events of 9/11 and things of this kind, people are much more ready to push this away from their world and say, I am not ready to accept that a demon or a minion of hell is in my neighborhood.
I don't know about that, because the thing about it is, since then, this kind of topic has become, in my opinion, just kind of normal and commonplace, and it's not the big deal it was with Spawn. With Spawn, it was kind of, wow, that's edgy, we're really pushing boundaries and we're going to go there. How many movies have we had about a dude that came back from hell since Spawn, right? I mean, so I'm not sure I entirely agree with you. I think that people didn't get repelled by it. I'm going to meet you halfway. I think it's not so much that people got repelled by it because of 9/11, it's that because the world seemed to get darker, seeing dark things wasn't as surprising anymore.
I mean, I think people... First, they get desensitized to things, and then secondly, are they as willing to embrace it? Like, you can take something dark right now and enjoy it, but do you really want that dark thing to be part of your world? I mean, you look at a lot of movies like The Killers and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and you take these movies...
I love Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's a great movie.
You take The Killers, not quite as much.
Did you ever watch that? Yeah. It's good. It's funny.
Yeah, but with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I assume.
Yes. I think it's great.
My girlfriend owns it. But
sorry.
So you have this killers are in suburbia. It is happening, and people are willing to accept that more because they're comedic. They're fun, and it's not quite as dark as this minion of hell is. Getting vengeance and things.
Yeah, but also Spawn's so super over the top. I mean, it's really you got Cygor and you got it's.
Another thing is I think people really want to take their over the top stuff seriously nowadays.
Yeah, and I somewhat resist that, but that's a different topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think the question is not so much will they survive, because it seems to me like as long as you have comics, all of these characters are kind of ripe for the picking. Where you're always going to have a writer who if it gets lost, somebody's going to want to bring it back. You always have a writer or an artist who goes back and goes, I want to use that.
The Shadow's coming back. I'm all jazzed about it.
So I think the question is, it's okay, down boy. I think the question is less will they survive and more will they remain popular, and probably not, depending on what we're talking about. Venom stuck around, but in different ways, and is actually you could say is more popular now simply because he has a successful ongoing comic. People actually buying it. Whoa, But
I think characters have their heyday, but really, they don't necessarily stop existing. So,
and then different ones will get really popular again, depending on what's going on. You've seen if you look at a chart of Superman popularity, it's this throughout the years. You know what I mean? That's what it is. What do you think? Will characters like Spawn stick around? Will they be popular later on, or are they kind of, and also are they kind of destined to be stuck in the era that they were originally in? That's the question. Leave us a comment, let us know. And if you have anything you'd like us to talk about in a future video or something you'd like us to bring up next week on the Geeks Not Nerds multi-topic extravaganza.
Multiple topics.
Yes, that's what that means.
Bring up as many as you like.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. Because remember, we try to answer them all, so we're going to be stuck. We're not going to limit you, but don't go crazy.
Think of good questions. Just ask us what kind of breakfast cereal we eat.
Yeah, and let me See, if you do that, somebody's good. But
Brand flakes.
Let me also say that we will not commit to doing all of them. Some people with Q&As they try to answer everything. We'll make sure to try to answer at least one question from every person. But if you ask a whole bunch of them, we may not get to every question. There's just only so much time in these videos, and we try to cap them off at half an hour. We'll do 3 or 4 of those if there's that many questions, and then we'll stop and do some more a few months down the road. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Captain Logan,
and I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local comic book store.
See you later. Oh, you're so much faster than me. Let's try that again. Oh, every time.
That was really funny to me.
No. Yes! Bullet time race!
I win!
Take that, sucker!
Cheater!